Did you know that imposter syndrome is just one of many cognitive distortions? I made a video specifically about imposter syndrome and what you can do about it. I will link that somewhere around here. So we're not going to deep dive into that again because that's not the only problem that you could be having right now. So what are cognitive distortions? They're irrational and exaggerated ways of thinking that can lead to bad behaviors and negative emotions, which can destroy your professional growth and development. You might be facing pressure to perform, meet deadlines, navigate office politics, and all of those are contributing factors in distorted thinking patterns. Here are the 5 most common cognitive distortions. First, black and white thinking. Essentially what this means is that you think in terms of winning or losing. There's no middle ground.
You ain't first, you're last.
That means you think in extremes. 2, filtering. Out of all of your life experiences, the things that you've accomplished at work, you solely focus on the negative, the failures. And then you disregard any positives, like the learnings that you had from those failures. Number 3, catastrophizing. With this one, you're imagining the worst case scenarios before you even enter the room and blowing things way out of proportion, causing yourself unnecessary anxiety and stress. Number 4, perfectionism. You've set goals that are unrealistic and unattainable because you're seeking perfection, which ultimately leads to more stress and burnout. And finally, number 5, mind reading. This basically means that you assume what others are thinking about you and whatever's going on without any concrete evidence, leading to misunderstandings and conflict. So now what can you do about this? It starts with self-awareness. As you were listening to those 5 common cognitive distortions, did any of them hit home? Did any of them sound familiar? If you're practicing self-awareness, you have to start with saying, yes, I do that thing. Yes, I strive for perfection instead of excellence. Yes, I think about the worst case scenario. Maybe you relate to all 5, maybe you relate to only a couple, but you have to start with identifying the issue first. And I would say the self-awareness part of this is probably the hardest thing to do because you're challenging your own mind. And sometimes we've had these distortions and these horrible thought patterns for so long, it feels true. So now you have to challenge yourself. If you're a person that thinks in black and white terms and wins and losses, you have to introduce the concept of good enough. Sometimes you put all of your energy and effort into something and you still don't get the desired outcome. That doesn't mean that you failed. That doesn't mean that you're not worthy. That doesn't mean that you're incapable. That doesn't mean that you're not smart. You have to refocus on good enough. I gave it my best shot. It didn't work out. I can be proud of good enough. I can be proud of good try, and I can move on to the next thing. You have to remember you're going to make mistakes. You have to remember that from every mistake and failure, there's a lesson to be learned. You have to remember that the people that you look up to, whether they're CEOs or family members, didn't come from a place where they knew all of the answers from the beginning. They had to learn. You have to take it easy on yourself. Challenge that voice in your head that says that this is not okay, that says that you failed. Challenge the voice in your head that tells you because you didn't achieve perfection that you're not successful, or that you didn't achieve something, or that you have nothing to be proud of. If you put yourself out there and you took a chance and you were courageous in taking that chance, that in and of itself is something to be proud of, which then leads to you have to set realistic goals. Perfection isn't possible. Continuous improvement is. Being better tomorrow than you were today is absolutely possible, but the lessons again are in the mistakes. There's not a single human being that ever existed that was perfect, and that's just the reality. Keep in mind as you're setting these goals, small goals count too. I consider myself a reformed overachiever because I went through burnout, because I had these cognitive distortions that went on for so long, I crashed. Now I have a lot more goals than I did when I was trying to be perfect, and they're more attainable and realistic, and they're simpler. I want to be able to pay my bills. I want to have decent healthcare. I want to take care of my mind. I don't need to go on 5-star cruises around the world, but it would be nice if I didn't have to work so much that I couldn't take my dogs for a walk every day. That seems super boring and super simple, but every day I get to accomplish that. So every day I have something to celebrate. And as my business grows, I'll adjust my goals as I need to. But I always have to tell myself the goal is not to be perfect. I just want to have a good life, and that's enough. The last thing that I recommend people do is practice mindfulness. You're self-aware and you've set realistic goals and you've identified where you either hyperfixate or cause these things to bubble up. For me, that means that at least once a day, I have to tell myself, okay, this is a good stopping point. I stop to make sure that I eat. I stop to make sure that I leave this room. I take purposeful, mindful breaks throughout the day, even on days that I'm not working, to make sure that I'm prioritizing my mental health. That might be deep breathing, that might be walking, that might be reviewing my task list to make sure that I didn't set myself up for failure or additional stress where I don't need to. This is my way of keeping myself present and grounded. It keeps my little distortion demon in check. Because I was in them for so long, it's a comfortable place for me to be. All stressed out and not sleeping and not eating enough, no life, I was comfortable in the chaos. Whether you're dealing with all 5 of these cognitive distortions or just one, know that you're not alone and there are ways to combat them. You don't have to just sit and suffer through your stress and burnout. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again next week.